Thanks for joining us here today on WEKZ AM 1260 and FM 95.5 for To The Point. One of our favorite times of the month here since September is catching in with the Greene County Leaders Program, talking to the current leaders going through the program, and they're coming up on graduation day here, so to speak, with one more session to get to. Let's talk about the latest round and get together earlier this week, and it sounds like they were in Greene County's Broadhead community. So we'll talk a little bit about this. Let's first meet the Greene County leaders in the class here of 2023. Let's go around the room here. Make it nice and easy. Nick, go introduce yourself a little bit.
Hello, I'm Nick Martin. I work at Colony Brands. I've been in the community in the area for about 8 years now.
Nick, you've been in the community for a little bit. Where are you from originally? Just outside Greene County, it sounds like.
Grew up just outside of Prairie du Chien on a small family farm, still owned and operated by my brother. A small dairy of maybe only 70 to 80 milking cows.
So no stranger to the ag industry then.
No, I grew up very familiar with it.
All right. Greene County Leaders, you mentioned your Colony Brands. How did you get acquainted into the Greene County Leaders Program?
My boss recommended it to me, and it's one of those programs that you hear everyone doing, and it's just highly recommended.
So far, so good?
Yeah, I've been enjoying it.
All right, fantastic. Well, great to have you with us here today, Nick. Let's go to my right now. Will, introduce yourself here. Tell us about yourself.
Sure. Will Fetters. Grew up in Monroe, went out to college, came back, currently work for Colony Brands, been there for about 5 years.
So what do you do at Colony Brands?
Sure. I'm a logistics analytics manager for them, so really on the operations side. Most of the numbers run through kind of my group, inbound and outbound.
Logistics. All right.
Yep.
Logistics guy. You mentioned you're from Monroe. How did you get acquainted with Greene County Leaders?
Sure. Yeah, I heard about it several times, but my boss recommended it prior to going to the operations side. When I was the marketing side, we brought it up. Really heard great things. And then operations side, they said the same thing. A lot of people have been through it. A lot of people have learned leadership, among other things. Specifically, why I like it is because Greene County, I grew up here, but I might not know everything. So you said we went to Broadhead. I really haven't visited Broadhead a whole lot, so it was good to see that and learn more about it.
All right, fantastic. Enjoying the program?
I am very much.
Awesome. Well, glad to have you with us here as well, Will. Last but certainly not least, here, I'm going to spoil it for folks. So also from Colony Brands. Al, go ahead and introduce yourself here for us.
Yeah, I'm Al Auert. Very similar story to Will. I grew up in Monroe. Besides college, lived here my entire life. I knew I wanted to come back to Greene County after graduation. Worked at Colony Brands for 6 years now as a marketing analyst. I decide who gets mailed and what type of marketing pieces they receive.
You're from Monroe originally. Same type of scenario, boss introduced you to Greene County Leaders, or has this been something on your radar for a while?
It's been on my radar for a little bit, knowing people have gone through the program, always hearing great things about it and what they learn about the community. My boss recommended me to apply for the position or the opportunity to become a Greene County leader, and I jumped at it, and it's a good opportunity. Like Will said, I'm learning more about the smaller communities that I haven't fully explored until now.
All right, so we're going to keep it with you here, Al, and we're going to get to your guys' stay and your guys' opportunity to visit the Broadhead community here in a second. Overall, kind of a macro level, what have been your big takeaways here, Al, as you've gone through this program? Maybe give me a thing or two that really surprises you, not on the leadership side, but just as the county level. What have you really taken away from viewing and visiting all these different communities?
I think it's very easy to become in a bubble of your own economic class or just the town you live in, so you don't see some of the struggles that the smaller communities live in or people who don't make the same income as you. And even in this session, we learned about some of the food insecurities that people are dealing with in Greene County and all the programs that are available that I was just not aware of before. And we keep hearing about, specifically in this class, the rate of redeeming those free meals is increasing. I hope that's not people worsening their economic situation, but actually it's the awareness happening of these programs and more people are being served their needs.
It'd be interesting to take a look back at this program 8-9 years ago as opposed to going through this one. Obviously, we know we're going through a little bit of an economic crisis out there for folks. You mentioned food. We all go to the grocery store, or at least someone in our household is going to the grocery store, getting the food and seeing the costs. Same kind of question for you, maybe not necessarily on the community side, Will, but talk a little bit about just the leadership. What are some of the things you've taken away from this class that maybe that you're taking back with you, or maybe subconsciously you're taking back with you on a leadership role? Because it sounds like you've got a leadership type position.
Sure. So yeah, we talked a lot in the earlier sessions about really understanding yourself and how that plays into your leadership journey. We went through the colors, so we learned about ourselves and everybody else and how we kind of communicate in effective ways. Really kind of continue those trends through every session to make sure that we're touching on the importance of leadership and how we can evolve as leaders and get better.
Nick, and let's dive into the Broadhead. Where'd you guys end up in Broadhead here this week?
We started at Coon Night. We had a lovely tour of that facility and a lot of the equipment that they work and manufacture on right here in Broadhead. I was unaware of a lot of the larger equipment. When I think of Coon, I think of specific mixers and TMRs, stuff like that. But they do everything that can be pulled behind a tractor.
All right. And with your ag background, this was probably kind of a joyful day. You were all tickled to go to a place like this.
I grew up actually using a lot of the Coon machinery, so I'm very familiar with it. It was basically like a home tour for me.
All right. What was kind of your big takeaway there? You mentioned some of the machinery you didn't expect to see there. What was something else that kind of stood out to you?
I was not aware of Coon supplying to worldwide. They have several facilities in Northern Europe and in Brazil. They are the largest manufacturer of anything implement, which means anything pulled behind a tractor.
All right. So besides Coon, Will, let's turn it back to you now. Well, where did you guys end up after Coon?
Sure. After Coon, we actually took a little tour of Broadhead, walked around downtown, and then we went to Williams Bedrock Bovines, which is owned and operated by Jeff Williams and his brother. So a farm out there. I think they have upwards of 1,000 milking cows. And really just toured the parlor, the barn, and the facility in itself.
All right. And I'm sure you guys had a chance to talk with the Williams family, as well as some folks from the Coon family, if you will, over there in Broadhead. What were their messages here? What was their kind of message of Broadhead and Greene County?
Yeah, a lot of good things. There's reasons that they have their businesses here. I think we talk a lot about how much people care about Greene County. There's also, they talk a lot about the unknown, right? So Nick kind of brought it up, but, Coon's much larger than people may have realized. Similar with the ag industry as a whole, probably around Greene County. I think people are aware of it, but just the sheer size is pretty impressive.
And I'm sure they brought up, I'm just throwing this out there because of logistics, but talking about some of the positives and negatives of getting their feed, getting their milk, for pro and con in this day and age. Yeah,
there's a decent amount of volatility as well within pricing of milk, and they talked about that, touched on that. We talked a lot about inputs versus outputs. So yeah, the feed would be one thing for the farm. Coon also had a lot of some difficulties with logistics, specifically on parts or different pieces that they need to produce.
Al, let's end the day here in terms of your stay in Broadhead. Was there a theme that kind of stuck out to you with your visit, with your stroll downtown, and the trip to the farm there? Was there kind of a constant theme overall in your guys' stay in Broadhead?
Small community values with agricultural surroundings all around it. We visited the downtown, I think, as Nick mentioned. Just saw some of the smaller businesses that are operating on the small strip of downtown space. Just seeing how rural the areas around there and welcoming the downtown area can be.
Let's circle around here a little bit now and shift gears. It sounds like a great stay in Broadhead. You guys learned a lot, took a lot, especially for a couple of guys that are from here in Monroe. Let's talk about the projects. I'm curious to see where you guys are currently at as we're winding down the class here for Greene County leaders. Nick, we'll start with you. What part of the project are you working on? Because I understand this is just a wide gamut here you guys have with this large group of Greene County leaders.
The project that we were working on was an ATV, UTV tourism map for Greene County. As you know, in Monroe, a lot of ATV, UTVers come to Monroe, drop off, and then head to Lafayette County. We were trying to devise a plan and a map how to get them to stay in the county and explore the county and the tourism stops that we can provide.
I know recently the county board has approved some more routes. So where are you guys currently at on this project?
We are currently having the map produced by the Highway Department. We're hoping that it's going to be up and live before May 10th, before our final day. But we're still working on it. A lot of townships are still voting on it. Some of them have allowed ATV, UTV, which is great for businesses in those small communities. Some have not yet, but I think it's an evolving circus, and we're just trying to manage through it.
All right. Just curious. Did you know what you're getting into with this project?
We had an idea, and we had a lot grander ideas than we were able to accomplish. But the goal that we set out and accomplish, I think we got a good foundation, and it might just be an evolving thing that we hand on to the next year's Greene County leaders.
Will, are you in the same project or different one?
Different project.
All right, perfect. Talk about your project.
Sure. So our project is Aspiring Leaders. It was formerly Young Professionals of Greene County, really more of we'll call it a social arm of kind of this Greene County Leaders group. Really trying to do a lot of things within Greene County. We want to make sure those that are coming to Greene County have a place where they can meet others of similar circumstance, education background, all those types of things. So trying to bring people together is really what it's about. We have our first event actually coming up in May 24th, for anybody out there that wants to come. It's at Cactus Company here in Monroe. Welcome everyone to go. I think we're going to have a lot of exciting things happening. There's going to be the social piece, like I said, but we're also going to do some volunteer activities, bring some good speakers in, those types of things.
Again, you're circling around leadership. This sounds like a perfect group then for you to kind of, and project to jump in, kind of want to be up in front and lead, whether by example.
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity for everybody. So, it's a newer group. It has a board. I think we're willing and able to bring more board members on, which would be good experience for people. But again, it's going to be bringing people together that are looking for leadership, again, from that social side, and then want to hear good speakers that are talking about leadership and how they can grow.
So this project is already being implemented. Then you guys have a date and have a get together.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot done actually in the last couple months. We have our first event. We actually have our second event scheduled as well. If you show up at the first event, we'll tell you about the second event, those types of things.
All right. So you got to come to one before you get to two. I like the little teaser there. Al, different than these two? I know there are a lot of options here.
Yep.
Which side are you leaning?
It is a different one.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
This one is referred to as Greene County Beautification as an overall term for what is planned to be a twofold program. The first one is a pollinator garden going into Twining Park. We're planning to use that as an educational resource for students to come maybe on a class field trip, learn more about the pollinators and the importance there, as well as an educational resource for people living in the community to learn about the natural plants and how they can plant them in their own yards. Natural pollinators and natural plants have a lot of special resources, and how to envelop them into their gardens can be important.
All right. You got a lot of experience working in gardens, Al?
Some. My family has a small garden that we run. And then the second part is a living catalog, which we're referring to it as the living catalog, which is tree plantings in Twining Park to highlight the terrace program that is available for people who have a sidewalk in front of their house, where the city comes in, plants a tree between the sidewalk and road for a fairly low fee. And we're trying to get them all in Twining Park so people can come visit them and see what they look like fully grown before making a decision just based on a pamphlet.
Working with Park and Rec for that one?
Yep.
Is this something, you mentioned the garden piece, is this something that's in your wheelhouse, or did you kind of step out of your comfort zone to join this type of project?
It's somewhat of my wheelhouse. Before I became a marketing analyst, I originally went to school only for a year to be a soil and water management analyst. And so there's some interest there in the natural resources.
You guys got some great stories, some great insight to the Greene County Leaders Program. We'll circle around here and we'll ask you this final piece. Nick, we'll start with you. You get to be the guinea pig here. What's been the biggest piece maybe you've taken from Greene County leaders here and implemented in your day-to-day or your home life or your personal social life? What's been something you've taken away and you've kind of already utilized it and implemented in your own day-to-day?
A lot of the early classes were about simple communication, just how to properly communicate with coworkers, employees, bosses, just how to communicate better. And one of the big things I took away was the 90-10 rule, guideline. I won't say rule, but we'll say guideline. It was listen 90 and only speak 10%. It helps a lot when trying to just better understand your employees and understand what is going on. It's better to listen and take in more information than just saying what's on your mind.
All right. I think my spouse is the same thing. Will, give us your big takeaway.
A couple things. I would say leadership can come in many different forms. That's one thing I've learned. And then really how much people care. So, lived here a lot most of my life, like I said, always wondered how this place is growing or how we're trying to get it to grow. And what I've seen through Greene County leaders is that there's a lot of people working on that, and a lot of people that care about the communities that they live in. So,
Okay. Al, same for you here.
Yeah, mine was going to be caring as well. Something that I was very uncomfortable with was having to ask local businesses for donations for the projects. And pretty much everyone I ask has been very open to the idea of giving. It may not always be a lot, but I was surprised by the willingness to donate has been.
Okay. Question just for the two guys here in Monroe. Al, what's been something in Greene County, community-wise, that's really kind of taken you back here that really stuck out? I know you mentioned this, Monroe's kind of a bubble here, Greene County, but you got Belleville, you got Albany, you got Monticello, New Glarus, all these other communities, not even to mention Judah, you know what I mean, these smaller communities, you head more south. What's been a takeaway from those outside Monroe communities?
The pride that everyone has in their own community. We had to give some harsher criticism of Albany when we did was referred to as a walk around, I believe, or first impressions. And they were very open to hearing ways they could improve it. But you could see they weren't always most thrilled about that response because they do love their community, but they know that there needs to be made improvements to attract new residents.
All right. Same question for you, Will.
Yeah, I'd piggyback off of what Al said, the pride that people have in their communities. And again, I'll go back to the amount of work that people are putting in to have these communities be great. Everyone's looking, like I said, somewhat for growth, but really want to be in a place that everyone's happy to live in. And that's what I've seen through all these small communities, similar to Monroe.
Appreciate you guys coming in here today. Best of luck as you guys close out this Greene County Leaders Class of 2023 with one more big session and the closing out the projects here for Greene County Leaders. Nick, Will, Al, thanks for coming in, and best of luck the rest of the way here.
Thanks for having us.
All right. That was the trio from Colony Brands, Nick Martin, Will Fetters, and Al Orrit, our guests here today on Greene County Leaders on To The Point.